Imagine sitting in a circular prison with a single guard tower in the center. The tower has windows, but they're tinted, so you can never actually see if there's a guard inside watching you. You just have to assume someone might be looking at any moment. That feeling, that constant uncertainty, changes how you act. You start policing yourself. That's the Panopticon. It was an idea dreamed up by a man named Jeremy Bentham over 200 years ago. He called it a new mode of obtaining power of mind over mind. And he wasn't just talking about prisons. He was talking about a design for control that is, in so many ways, the world we live in now. But let's step back from the big, scary idea for a second. Let's talk about you. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, that inner certainty that your view of a situation is the correct one. It's a comfortable feeling, a safe one. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they feel like home, a mental space we've decorated ourselves and know well. It's our instinct. It's how our brains are wired to make quick sense of a complicated world. But there's a deeper awareness, a quieter voice that sometimes asks a dangerous question. What if I'm not seeing this clearly? What if my view of things is limited? This creates a natural tension, a push and pull between the easy, automatic thought and the harder, more curious one. Think about it. Remember when you realized a childhood belief wasn't quite true? Maybe it was about Santa Claus, or that monsters were definitely in the closet. The evidence mounted until your comfortable understanding just had to change. That moment of adjustment is a small version of what we're talking about. It's a little crack in your personal Panopticon, the one you built for yourself. We all do this. We construct these mental towers from which we watch our own lives, convinced we see everything clearly. We tell ourselves stories about why we're successful or why we failed, why we like certain people and dislike others. We are both the guard in the tower and the prisoner in the cell, and we rarely question the arrangement. Now take that personal feeling and zoom out. Think about the digital world. Every time you scroll, every time you search, every time you post, there's a potential audience. It might be an algorithm, it might be a corporation, it might be your friends, or it might be a future employer. You can't see who's watching or when, so you start to act accordingly. You subtly change your behavior, your opinions, even your sense of humor to fit an invisible standard. You become your own censor. This is Bentham's principle in action, but on a scale he could never have imagined. The tower is no longer made of brick and mortar. It's made of data and the quiet fear of being judged. This system works so well because it uses our own minds against us. We fool ourselves into believing we are completely free while simultaneously tailoring our actions to an unseen observer. We think we are choosing a product, a political opinion, or a lifestyle purely of our own volition, but the architecture of our choices has already been shaped by invisible walls. The most powerful control isn't a lock on a door, it's the certainty that you are being watched, which makes you lock the door yourself. You internalize the guard. You become the one ensuring you follow the rules, and you stop even questioning what those rules are or who made them. The real trick is to realize that the first Panopticon we need to understand is the one we carry in our heads. Before we can even think about the external systems of control, we have to see our own self-imposed limitations. We have to notice when we're performing for our own internalized audience, when we're shutting down a new idea, not because it's wrong, but because it challenges the comfortable story we tell about ourselves and our place in the world. This isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness. It's about recognizing the design of the room you're in so you can decide if you want to keep living in it. This cracks open the entire concept and lets us see the initial, simple phase of our relationship with the modern Panopticon. We start noticing the little things, the small conveniences and connections. We see the map app that knows the fastest route, the social feed that shows us exactly what we like, the smart speaker that plays our favorite song on command. It feels simple, even empowering. We are the ones in the tower, looking out at a world of information designed to serve us. The visibility is one way, and it feels like it's in our favor. We might get a targeted ad that is a little too accurate, and we laugh it off as a quirky coincidence, a funny glitch in the matrix. In this beginning, the digital world is a tool and we are its unquestioned masters, operating on a simple equation of input and output, search and result. But then we enter the confusing middle, the phase where that simple equation starts to break down and things become deeply complicated. This is the part Jeremy Bentham, the Panopticon's architect, knew would be the toughest. He understood that any system of control, even a benevolent one, creates a profound internal struggle. The challenge is not a guard beating down your door. It is the quiet, gnawing uncertainty of never knowing for sure if you are being watched right now. You might be someone who resists change at first, clinging to that initial feeling of control. Most of us feel uneasy during transitions like this, when the tools we use start to feel like they are using us back. The ads are no longer just for products you search for, but for things you only talked about near your phone. The newsfeed seems to amplify your anxieties, and the recommended videos lead you down rabbit holes you never intended to explore. You are no longer just in the tower. You are also unquestionably in the cell, and the roles are blurring in a deeply unsettling way. The simple visibility becomes a source of paranoia and confusion. You start to second-guess your own impulses, wondering if a thought is truly your own, or a subtle suggestion planted by an algorithm designed to keep you engaged. This tough middle phase is where we typically have our knee-jerk reactions. Bentham's main contrast was between the raw, emotional response of the observed and the calm, rational calculation of the observer. Our knee-jerk reaction is to either rage against the machine, deleting apps and swearing off technology in a fit of defiance, or to completely give in and accept the loss of privacy as the inevitable cost of modern life. Both are emotional, fear-based responses, born from that feeling of powerlessness. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately, and that pause is the first step toward a new kind of clarity. It is in this messy, uncomfortable middle that we begin the hard work of moving from a knee-jerk reaction to a thoughtful response. And that thoughtful response is where the new clarity is found. It is not about finding a simple answer or going back to how things were. That ship has sailed. The new clarity is about understanding the game so well that you can decide how to play it. It is the shift from being a passive subject to becoming a conscious participant. We start to see the architecture not as an invisible force, but as a designed system with levers and buttons. We realize that our data is the currency and our attention is the product. This is the thoughtful response Bentham's observer represents, a calm, strategic awareness. We make conscious choices. We adjust privacy settings not out of panic, but as a reasoned policy. We engage with content critically, asking who benefits from us seeing this. We start to curate our own digital experience with intention, rather than just consuming whatever is served. The feeling of being watched doesn't disappear, but the anxiety around it transforms into a mindful awareness. We understand that we are both the watcher and the watched, and with that understanding comes a measure of power back. The goal is no longer to escape the Panopticon, but to navigate its halls with our eyes wide open, making deliberate choices about what we share, what we consume, and ultimately, who we become within it. Through this discomfort, we begin to see the faint outline of a new path, one we might have been too comfortable or too scared to notice before. It is in these moments of unease when the old ways of thinking and being no longer serve us, that a profound shift becomes not just possible, but necessary. This isn't about a sudden dramatic epiphany that strikes like lightning, but rather a slow, dawning realization, like the sun gradually burning off a morning fog to reveal a landscape we never knew was there. We start to question the very foundations of our daily routines, the automatic responses we have to stress, and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we are capable of achieving. This questioning is the first, crucial step out of the familiar and into the unknown, a territory that is frightening precisely because it holds the promise of real change. As we sit with this discomfort, we might notice something peculiar happening. We begin to see patterns in our behavior that were invisible to us before. Perhaps we realize how often we seek external validation for our choices, or how we shrink from challenges not because we are incapable, but because we are afraid of failing in a way that others might see. This is where a fascinating psychological phenomenon often comes into play, something known as the Barnum effect. It is our tendency to accept vague, general personality descriptions as uniquely accurate to ourselves. For so long, we might have accepted a label, "I'm just an anxious person," or "I'm not a leader," or "I'm bad with money," as an unchangeable truth, a fixed part of our identity. We clung to these descriptions because they were offered to us, and they seemed to fit well enough, providing a convenient explanation for our struggles. But now, in this new space of questioning, we can see that these labels are often as vague and universally applicable as a horoscope. They are shoes we were given that never quite fit, yet we wore them anyway because we didn't know we were allowed to take them off. Letting go of these ill-fitting identities is a process of gentle unlearning. It requires us to become detectives of our own lives, examining the evidence for and against these self-imposed limitations. We start to collect small, seemingly insignificant data points. That time we did speak up in a meeting, and it was fine. The moment we handled a crisis with more grace than we thought possible. The day we made a decision independently, and it was the right one. These moments were always there, but they were often dismissed as flukes, exceptions that proved the rule of our perceived inadequacy. Now, we choose to see them for what they are, proof of a different, more capable self that was always present, waiting for permission to emerge. This isn't about building arrogance, it is about building evidence-based self-trust. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier because they are no longer filtered through a lens of self-doubt. The mental energy once spent on agonizing over what your choice says about you is freed up, allowing you to simply choose, to act, and to move forward. This shift has a ripple effect that touches every corner of our existence. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much. The driver who cuts us off, the long line at the grocery store, the forgotten item on a shopping list. These minor irritations lose their power to derail our mood. Why? Because our sense of self is no longer so fragile. When we are not constantly defending a fragile identity built on shaky labels, we are less easily offended, less quickly angered. We can observe the inconvenience without internalizing it as a personal attack or a symbol of a bad day. We develop a resilience that comes from within, a stable core that understands that external events are just that, external. They do not have to dictate our internal state unless we grant them that power. This newfound emotional flexibility is one of the most liberating parts of the journey. It feels like discovering a secret superpower you always had, but never knew how to use. The journey inward inevitably leads us outward, reshaping our relationships with others. As we release ourselves from the burden of outdated labels, we unconsciously grant others the same permission. We become less judgmental, more curious. We stop trying to fit people into boxes. The funny one, the responsible one, the flaky one, and start seeing them as complex, evolving beings, just like us. Our conversations become deeper and more meaningful because we're engaging with the person, not our projection of who they are. We listen to understand, not to reply or to label. This creates a profound sense of connection and community, a feeling that we are all in this together, figuring it out as we go, each on our own path, but capable of offering support and kindness along the way. This entire process, from the first prickling of discomfort to the peaceful acceptance of a fluid self, is about rewriting the internal narrative. We are replacing a monologue written by fear and external expectation with a story authored by our own values, experiences, and discovered strengths. It is the most important work we will ever do, and it is never truly finished. There is no final destination where we become a perfectly finished product. Instead, we are engaged in a continuous, beautiful process of becoming. Every day offers new opportunities to practice this new way of being, to choose curiosity over judgment, compassion over criticism, and action over anxiety. Some days, we will stumble and fall back into old patterns, and that is okay. It is all part of the learning. The goal is not perfection. It is awareness and gentle course correction. Together we discover that the ultimate destination of this journey is not a specific achievement or a fixed state of being, but a profound sense of inner freedom. It is the liberation that comes from no longer being a prisoner to the perceptions of others or the limitations of our own past stories. We begin to understand that we are not a statue, carved from a single block of stone, permanent and unchanging. We are a river, constantly flowing, shaped by our experiences, but always moving, always capable of carving new paths through the landscape of our lives. This fluidity is our strength. It allows us to adapt, to grow, to learn, and to forgive ourselves and others. It allows us to experience the full, rich tapestry of human emotion without being defined by any single thread. This is the peace that comes after the discomfort, the calm after the storm of self-reckoning. It is a quiet, powerful confidence that needs no announcement, a deep knowing that we are enough, exactly as we are, right now, while still possessing the beautiful potential to become more. This hard-won understanding echoes the key insight of the philosopher Jeremy Bentham, who argued that true liberty is found not in the absence of restraint, but in the absence of those specific restraints that cause pain and hinder our pursuit of happiness. The freedom we find is precisely this. It is the conscious, deliberate act of removing the constraints we have unconsciously placed upon ourselves, the stories that chafed and limited our potential. It is the ultimate liberation, a feeling of expansion and ease so profound, it is like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit and feeling the solid, welcoming earth beneath your feet for the very first time.